Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee. It's Sunday night on the 30th of September. We're winding down the end of the month and getting ready to get into the month of October. Uh, I'm taking some time off. I'm down actually in the Washington, D.C. Area and in Washington itself. I've been here before a number of times. I never can seem to get enough of Washington D.C. and the beauty that's around here. So if you've have never been, yeah, you really should do it at least once. So one of the beauties about vacationing in Washington D.C. is the fact that since a lot of what's here is taxpayer funded, you're not paying admissions to go into the Smithsonian or into the National Zoo or into any one of a number of museums and the monuments, the Holocaust Museum. I love personally. My favorite is the Lincoln Memorial. It was one of the first things I did last night was to go there. It's a truly powerful place. So if you've never done this, DC is great. Stay outside of DC where it's a bit cheaper. The metro is so easy to get around, and it gets you wherever you want to go. It's reliable and very fast, and I've had no issues with it. So I appreciate those of you who are on board tonight. The schedule ahead for this week is going to be a little bit loopy, but I'm going to try to do something uh, every day during the week. At least the weather is relatively quiet, but we do have a few things going on and a few things that I think we need to look at as far as the longer term picture is concerned. First off, I think front and center at the moment is the southwestern part of the U.S. because here we have a huge area of flash flood watches and even some flash flood and flood warnings that are up for the Southwest, southeastern California, much of the western half of Arizona, on up into Utah, southeastern Nevada, as well as most of eastern Nevada, and that rain area creeps up into southeastern Idaho. Also, before the rains come, it's been bone dry in some areas up in the northern Rockies. So we've got red flag issues and flash flood issues going on at the same time. Obviously, the flash flooding will probably put an end to the red flag issues, but nonetheless, we're going basically from very dry to very wet with respect to Rosa, which is now a tropical storm and beginning its track to Baja California and about to move inland. We'll bring up the satellite loop of the Pacific, which is, let me find it here. Hang on. I had that extra day, that the time off. Hang on, folks. Um, I'm having to almost relearn my switching abilities here. And here we go. We've got actually two tropical storms here on the satellite on the Pacific side. On the lower right is Tropical Storm Sergio, which just formed and is moving out toward the west. But it's the one in the upper center there, Rosa, which has now weakened to tropical storm strength, which is no surprise. It's north of 25 degrees north. Ocean water temperatures are less than 77 degrees Fahrenheit, so we are seeing it weaken, but it still has a pretty well-defined circulation on the satellite, and it's moving toward Baja California, where we have tropical storm warnings that have been posted. And there's the Hurricane Center's forecast with regards to this. Coming inland during Monday evening, and then gradually the remnant low finds its way into southwestern Arizona and then eventually moves up into southernmost Utah by the time we get to Wednesday. This is going to move relatively quickly, which is good because we're not talking about stalling out or rains piling up. And it does make sense with the upper flow that we see. And I'll just show you what's going on in the southwestern part of the United States and why this is happening the way it is. The upper flow is being dictated by a trough that is off the west coast of the United States. Actually, there's two troughs here. There's one that has moved inland into Northern California. You can see it here and extends down to Southern California. That's moving up northeastward. And then on the edge of the frame there on the left is a second shortwave trough that is coming in. Actually, that is a cutoff low that is lifting Rosa up and just basically punting it away to the northeast. So it's not like what we had with Florence, where we were in between two upper highs and dead flow in the upper atmosphere. This is a dynamic moving jet stream here. So all this will eventually find its way up to the northeast and do it quickly enough so that at least, yeah, there will be heavy rains to deal with, no question, but it will be limited to just about a 24 to 36 hour period, maybe more like a 36-hour period at least, given the fact that we're already seeing rains on the radars as of 8:35 this evening. We've got some heavy rains and some flash flooding going on in Arizona. That's that lead moisture that is coming up from Rosa. And if you look into over the Baja Peninsula, northern part of the Baja Peninsula, you're seeing the northern part of the circulation of Rosa pushing rains inland and to the northeast. Even seeing some downpours popping up in parts of southeastern California at the moment. That rain shield is likely to get into southeastern California during the overnight. So we're in a part of the world where it doesn't take a whole lot of rain to come down and you wind up with flash flooding issues. So this is going to be the big deal here as far as the West is concerned. And with respect to rainfall, weather models usually tend to underdo these tropical systems. The GFS has got a pretty um, robust area of 2 to 4 inch rainfalls. There'll probably be some locally higher amounts in some of the mountains, and that will certainly be enough to trigger off some flash flooding. And you can see the rain area actually does extend into southern Utah, and after that, it just sort of gets cut off and smooths out because the system gets lost in the flow. You really don't see a very definable system from there going on up to the northeast. Also, by the way, seeing some rains of consequence with the entire upper air trough that's coming into the west coast, showing rain through a good chunk of California this week, especially along the coastal areas as far south as Los Angeles and going all the way up north of San Francisco. Some areas getting perhaps a couple of inches of rain in some of these downpours from the upper air system. So it's sort of a 1-2 punch here that we are looking at. Now, with respect to the overall pattern going forward, we have been noticing for weeks now the GFS's stubbornness in trying to, and the other models too, to some degree, where we keep seeing these switches from ridge to trough in the east and trough to ridge in the west, and it really doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, at least not in the next week or so, or perhaps even through the next 10 days. Going to bring up the paint box here. I just want to kind of outline the upper pattern for everybody. And let's, whoops, wrong map, folks. Hang on. All right, so, and, okay, so let's bring the paint box up. Oh, boy. Come on, everybody. There we go. And why am I not seeing my paint box? This is not helping me. Ah, there it is. Okay. You have to be patient with me, folks. I am, like I said, I am on vacation, so it's I'm a little bit slow on the uptake here. But the upper air, the overall pattern with respect to the upper air is the fact that the ridge in the eastern part of the U.S., it's not a strong ridge. It's basically a flat ridge that we're looking at. And the issue with all of this is the fact that that upper ridge just kind of sits there. I'm going to draw it on here. We go. Hopefully you're able to see this. Let me just make sure that you've got what you need to have up there on the screen, and you do, so that's good. Okay, so here's your upper high that is sitting right over northern Florida, and it's just been sitting there for a while now, and it stretches to the east or bends back to the west. Meanwhile, out in the west, of course, here's your trough that's coming in that's going to bring Rosa up. I have actually that arrow. I should correct that. Hang on. That arrow should be more this way as it moves up toward the northeast. In the meantime, in Canada, we continue to see this very busy flow in Canada, which has been rather cold for the last month, and starting to see even some snow cover gains going on there. You have a big upper high that is sitting over the state of Alaska and just continues to sit there. The flow in the Pacific relatively split. Hang on. Come on. All right. Why won't it? There we go. I'm stuck with the color purple. There we go. So here's your flow in the Pacific here. It's kind of split with those two upper lows that are sitting down along 40, the one upper low sitting at 40 degrees north and another one south of the Aleutians. And then you have that second flow that comes out of Canada. So just along the East Coast, we're kind of on the border with this. We're at a time of year, by the way, where the weather pattern overall is usually fairly quiet. And that is at least a good thing. It's giving a lot of areas that saw so much rain during the summer months and during the month of September, a bit of a break, a bit of pause, which is good. We need some a break here with respect to the continuous rains and the flooding that we've seen. So that break, however long it lasts, at least it will last long enough where we're, until this upper ridge in the east kind of gets out of the way. And when we look at the GFS model run late this afternoon, the trough continues to do, the mean trough continues to pile down in the west. The ridge actually strengthens this weekend coming up and early next weekend and early the following week. The other thing I want to point out, by the way, is watch the area that's northeast of the Greater Antilles, because we are going to see a bit of a weakness here, and models have been sort of trying to telegraph something tropical coming out either there or perhaps extending southwestward into the northwesternmost Caribbean or even in the Gulf of Mexico. But something's going to try and come out of there, and you're going to see various model runs do something with this. If this ridge stays in the east and doesn't break down, and if it winds up doing something like this, this is now the week of October the 7th, where you get an upper high building up along the mid-Atlantic states, you're going to have another, you might wind up with another one of these situations where you'll get a tropical system kind of getting cradled underneath the upper high and not having any opportunity to escape. This is just long-term speculation on my part. I'm not forecasting this, but it is something worth noting that the ridge in the east poses this problem in the longer term. So we'll watch and see how it plays out in subsequent runs. And overall, you still have the models continuing to try to flatten out the ridge in the long term. And you know what? Every time it does that, we have yet to see it occur. So until proven otherwise, we're going to stick with the idea of the trough wanting to be in the west and the ridge wanting to be into the east, and shape our forecasts accordingly. Just want to give you a couple of quick satellite shots here. Of course, we've got the still frame. It's hard for me to load up loops sometimes when they oftentimes, if I load too many loops, you wind up getting the signal interfere with. So I wanted to make sure we had a good live stream. But notice there's not a whole lot of weather going on in the eastern part of the United States. In the tropics, up to the north in the upper center of the picture, I'll bring it down so you can see it. That is Tropical Storm Leslie. It is no longer a subtropical storm. It is a tropical storm, and that is just going to be out there for days and days and days. And we do have some disturbed weather in the Caribbean. At the moment, upper level winds are really not going to be conducive to any kind of development here. So we'll just monitor it in the meantime. We noted that with respect to Kirk, for example, that the upper level winds in the Caribbean were pretty hostile all the way across. That's kind of unusual, by the way. Oftentimes you do see at least the northwestern part of the Caribbean Sea showing us favorable conditions for development, even though the eastern part is unfavorable. But you've got this pattern overall that is really firing up the Pacific in a big way, and it's leaving much of the Caribbean basin under a situation where they're getting strong wind shear. And actually, if you look at the cloud tops, they are blowing away pretty much from west to the east. The higher cloud tops are going in one direction, the lower clouds are going in another. So you really can't have tropical storm development in a situation like that. So I'm going to come back to the board. I'm not going to go long on these live streams this week. I'm going to keep them contained as long as the weather's behaving themselves. I'm going to try to just keep things a bit on the quiet side, let's say, in terms of the length of some of the live streams, because those of you who are here on a nightly basis know that I sometimes can go a bit on the long side. So let me come back to the chat board. I'll leave the loop up here so you can take a look at what's happening cloud-wise and not have to look at my mug all the way through. So bring up the chat here. Big collective hello to everybody on this Sunday night. By the way, if anybody knows, can you tell me if the Giants won today or not? Because I really didn't even get a chance to watch the game, and I haven't even had a chance to take a look at what the score is. Also, let me just say right off the bat, with respect to the chat, I really try very much to get to everybody's questions. Sometimes I don't. It's kind of hard to have. When I'm manipulating a bunch of different things at the same time. So please forgive me if you do throw a question at me and I don't get it. Don't give up. Just wait till the next time, and I'll make a point to try and answer. I try to get to everybody with respect to your questions. And saying vacation's going good for those of you who have asked, including David Schwartz and others. How strong is Rosa, you mean, Jason? It's already weakening. I think rain is really the big deal. The tropical storm conditions with the winds are going to be confined to both the west coast and the west coast, the Pacific Ocean exposed coastline, and also the Gulf of California exposed coastline on the east side, where they have warnings up for both sides. Robert Hurley, hello to you. 99 Wolves, looking for Cardinal fans. Models keeps showing a switch 10 days away, but it keeps pushing the switch out. This has been, that's correct. And this has been an ongoing problem with the models. They keep trying to break down the ridge in the east, and it's not going away. So, and by the way, that's not unusual at this time of year. We do tend to hold on to that ridge in the east in most early falls as you get sort of the last gasps of the summertime patterns holding on. And, it's not unusual to have the ridge put up a good fight. Eventually, it'll probably go. But the question is when, and that's the $99,000 question here is when does that ridge break down? And it could it break down in the next 10 days to 2 weeks? Sure, absolutely. By the way, I want to bring up. Let me go back to the GFS here so we can look at least what the weather is across the U.S., which I didn't do. So I'll do it now. Oh, I've been out in the sun. I went to Arlington National Cemetery today, which was an incredibly moving experience. Again, if you've never been, you really ought to do. Put it on your must-do list. It is. I was at the Tomb of the Unknowns. It was extremely overwhelming for me. I can't tell you how emotional it was there, and there were some ceremonies going on with some families and laying of wreath, and I was told, I've been told about it, never. This was an experience. Again, if you've never been to DC, you really ought to. It really is. It was just incredible. All right, let me just try to get this window up here. Okay, so here's the GFS. So let's look at what's happening with respect to the surface. Maps, of course, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. And let me just remind everybody again, too, if you're watching this on a replay, it's 8:50 Eastern Time. So you're watching dated material as far as the radars are concerned. You want to make sure you check your local National Weather Service office and website, especially with regards to severe weather, and you can access that by going to weather.gov. So there's Rosa going in. In the east, we've got this backdoor front that is just going to settle to our north and kind of lay there across Long Island, New York City, Pennsylvania, and then a weak system pushes through with maybe a few showers Tuesday night into Wednesday. It looks like some heavier showers and possibly a thunderstorm or two up for northern New England. And then that goes out because we've got this ridge in the east. You're back to a southwest flow. Little stronger front comes through at the end of the week. But once again, remember that we've had models show these plunges of cool air, and in reality, they don't happen. Meanwhile, just to show you with Rosa, again, going inland, and this is Tuesday morning, the remnant low in southwestern Arizona. And by Tuesday evening, and Wednesday morning, you can barely find it. It's getting absorbed by low pressure up in the northern plains. So the ridge in the east continues. It's weak enough where you get some fronts that try to push in, but at least the pattern would suggest that there's no big storms to deal with this week. Late this week and this weekend, with low pressure going toward the Great Lakes, you might have the next weekend, I should say, in the middle Mississippi Valley, back in the southern plains, you probably could have some showers and thunderstorms to deal with there. Also, low pressure kind of popping up there in the Rockies with some rain and snows next weekend, so something to pay attention to. With that trough in the west, look for an early snow season to develop in the western part of the U.S. The GFS is kind of bullish here with the idea next weekend and into early next week with an early season snowfall. I have to give it a closer look. And then as you look in the lower left, in the lower right corner, this is the result of that weakness that we showed you off to the northeast of the Greater Antilles that may or may not fire up a tropical system at the same time. Again, I don't want to get to speculate on anything regarding that because there's way too much variability in the longer term, other than to say that we might have a situation where conditions could be ripe for development. Good time maybe to take a look at the snowfall. Our first one here of the season for the Rockies, maybe. Well, the GFS is certainly showing some bullish amounts. I would suspect that the snows might be confined to more of the higher elevations than the lower, but with that trough in the west like that, you might wind up seeing some low elevation, the first low elevation snows in the northern and central Rockies, and even on up into the northern plains going into next week. So pretty soon, folks, it shan't be long before we're going to start really dealing with the cold and the snow. It won't be, and it won't be too long. By the way, we're going to start talking about snow cover growth in the U.S. and Siberian snow cover. I'm a little bit fuzzy here. What's going on? A little out of focus. I'm not sure. There we go. This is a good opportunity, by the way, for me to remind everybody that a week from tomorrow, so on Monday, October the 8th, on our YouTube live stream, we're going to have Dr. Judah Cohen on, who is the man who has come up with the Siberian snow growth concept and what it might mean to winters in the eastern part of the United States. Like all things with weather, in terms of indicators, it's not a magic bullet. It's just one of many indicators we look at. But he's very big on the stratosphere and some stratospheric warming events that we've seen have had huge impacts on the weather. Just think back to last winter, especially in mid-February, which set the ball rolling to 4 nor'easters, among other things, in the month of March. And we're going to talk about all of this stuff with him. He's extremely knowledgeable. After all, he's Dr. Judah Cohen, okay? And he's going to be able to answer some questions that I probably couldn't even begin to tackle. So you want to mark your calendars here for next Monday, October the 8th at 7 o'clock Eastern time for Dr. Judah Cohen, and I will give you some more reminders along the way. West Virginia, Igati, why is the fan spinning so slow? I don't know. I guess I just have it on the slowest mode. I'm not even sure. Except, in fact, up until this morning, I didn't even realize I had a ceiling fan in the room. Can you take a look at Tropical Storm Malacca in the Central Pacific Ocean? Anthony, I'll tell you what, that is west of Hawaii, likely to become a major hurricane and then as it turns northward, and it's all going to get absorbed in what's going on in the Pacific. I'll try and do a little bit more tomorrow because I'm sort of running out of time here as far as today. But we'll take a look at it tomorrow. This is not going to have any impact on Hawaii, and it did actually develop in the Central Pacific, so that's why it's got the name Malacca, which is on the Central Pacific hurricane list. All right, folks. I think at this point we can call it a day. And thanks very much for being here. I'm a little bit out of sorts because of my vacation. But let me just take this opportunity for those of you who don't know, I have a platform on Patreon, which is all weather and nothing else. Not only do you get live streams on Patreon that are only for live stream for Patreon members, but you get all my website posts without any ads. Plus, you get additional weather posts that I'm not putting on my website. It's a subscription. It's a subscription platform. It's just starts at $2 a month, and if you're interested, I will put the link up on the chat board right now. There is also a link on the descriptor to this video and the descriptor to this live stream. So it's a great way to support my channel. Cost of a cup of coffee, $2 a month, and you get weather, you get videos, and you also have access to me because you can message me if you've got questions or comments, and I will definitely respond. I am moving slowly away from doing that on Facebook and Twitter, and I want to dedicate myself solely to those with regards to that, with respect to Patreon. So thank you very much for those of you. I know some of you that are on the board right now are members, and I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to put up the Patreon link now. And take a look at it. By the way, there is free stuff on there as well. So it's not just it's not just the subscription stuff, but there is some stuff that I do make public for everybody to take a look at. And again, give it a whirl. There's the link for you for those of you who are interested. And please mark your calendars for a week from Monday, October the 8th, for Dr. Judah Cohen, who will be here, and we will be talking about the upcoming winter. And we'll give him some questions, and you guys in the chat can certainly put your questions up, and we'll funnel them along, and we'll answer them. He'll answer them live, and it'll be great. Fingers crossed that all the technical stuff works on my end, so we get them on Skype and we get them on the screen, and we don't have any audio problems. So I'm going to try to work all that out. Thanks, Timothy Veltman, by the way. I did notice that you did jump a tier up on Patreon. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it that you did that. Also, just as a reminder, for those of you who are Amazon shoppers, another way you can support my channel is by using the Amazon link that's on the descriptor to this video. We're a participant in the Amazon Services of Associates, LLC Associates program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed for this so that this channel can earn some fees from Amazon by linking to their site. So if you shop there, they throw me back some coin, and I get to have a few cigars and a couple of cups of coffee. And that's another easy way to support my channel, because it doesn't cost you one extra dime. So I'm going to put the link up now on the chat. OROLOGIST. There you go. All right, folks. I really appreciate you all being here. Thanks for your patience. And we will live stream tomorrow. I'm really hesitant to give you a time on the live stream because I don't know what my schedule is going to be, but it'll be sometime during the evening. Take care. Have a great Sunday night. Watch some football and have a safe week ahead. We'll see you tomorrow.